We create our universe. We are supported by so many things, but it ultimately begins here. We're not interacting after the fact. We create the universe, right? And then the universe conspires to support that creation. Because this is what I'm learning on this path of, new awareness and becoming around stepping out of my conditioning, my compartmentalization, my boundary strewn life. There's no wrong way. There's no mistake. There's twists and turns that ultimately are always of service. May not be the best thing at the moment, may not be the most obvious choice to everybody else in the picture who loves you, but there is no wrong turn, there's no wrong way, and this applies to you and me, but it equally applies to our dear leader. It equally applies to the people who stormed the Capitol 2 days ago. It equally applies to everybody who's sitting at home trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. We all live in the universe we create. None of that affects me because I don't live in that universe. I'm observing it. I certainly am present during the time and space continuum whereby this took place. But it doesn't affect me the way it's obviously affected people who felt compelled to storm a Capitol building. Or the people who are now...
Don't forget the guy that actually took the time to pick out the horns.
Girl, no!
And the Grand Poobah guard.
Do you know what his name is? He's the QAnon shaman. That's his, moniker. And I'm like, he just wrecked the word shaman for all of us. My dear, dear brothers and sisters, I'm so sorry on behalf of the Viking god.
It was very Braveheart.
He's called the QAnon shaman. That's his moniker. That's what
you can take our lives, but you can't take our freedom. Go on.
I'm just saying, he obviously lives in his own universe, right? He's created a reality for himself whereby he felt so aggrieved. He felt so disconnected from his freedom, from his democracy, which at the end of the day is all an illusion too. But it's his illusion. It's his delusion. He lives in it. And he did what any person who feels their reality threatened and responded in accord. And that's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. And we all have the explanations for our reality.
I swear by that. When people say, "Oh, that's just an excuse," no, there's an explanation for everything.
Right. It's not
whether you agree with it or not is your business. But everything is cause and effect. And there's a cause that created this effect. Because I would have these arguments with Rob. Oh, don't make excuses. I'm just telling you why something happened.
I don't make excuses, but there's always an explanation. By the way, I love that we match. I got the brown out of your black and tan.
It did.
You're so fucking foxy. I love your brand new hairdo, by the way. You look great.
Matches my shirt also.
It sure does.
My shirt. It's my puffy shirt.
So yeah, that was kind of my jam. I really, really clearly saw, because I've believed it for years, but this week was a crystal ball internal confirmation of every one of us as source energy is creating our own reality. You're not required to be aware that you're doing it for it to be a reality.
Yeah.
But we are all creating our own universe.
And we're bumping up against each other
that's
too.
That's the universe we live in.
But the piece that my takeaway, since I'm 25, I'm without thyroid. And as a result of my being without thyroid, I make a practice of being very aware of my body.
Yeah.
Very aware of what it tells me all the time. And in the last 5 years, because I have rheumatoid arthritis and I'm without medication, I'm very aware of every crack, ache, joint. I eat a piece of cheese. I can't walk up a flight of stairs, So I try to be conscious of it and I try to take care of it, and I don't always do so. And obviously, stress is a component.
Absolutely.
So, as you also know, I am the queen of, he's corrupt, they're all corrupt. Fuck them all. I don't buy into any of it. This is my world. I'm going to paint pictures and I'm going to play with my friends and talk to spirits, and I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
And even though that may appear irresponsible, it's just with the understanding of my getting upset and involved and hyper opinionated over it doesn't change, doesn't help.
No service.
So I am going to, if I could help, by, storming the Capitol building, because it's helpful. But if I could help, I would. But right now, there's really nothing that appears that I could be doing that is not detrimental to my well-being.
Absolutely.
So I live in my own little world, right? Well, obviously, it's been pretty salacious out there. The last couple of days, he had the horns and the thing, and it was like a big deal. So I've been all down in that rabbit hole. And this morning, and not in an emotional place, not in an opinionated place, still kind of keeping that balance, still kind of keeping that place of, I get why these people are pissed, and I get why these people, again, these are all, like, still really keeping a level head, but having my own opinions and being very much aware and being involved in it, more so than usual. I woke up this morning, I couldn't fucking move. All of my joints hurt. I couldn't turn. I'm like, Robbie, rub my wrist. Like, everything hurt me. And I meditate is one of the first things I do, after I obviously get up and feed the kids. And when I went to meditate, and I also pulled cards, and all of the arrows were pointing to when you expose yourself to this kind of toxicity and this kind of stress, this is how it affects your reality, right? This is how it affects your body. Is this what you want? No. Then you need to remove yourself from that and go back to talking to dead people and painting pretty pictures, right? So, but beyond that, because I know this about me. Like, I know, like, if I have any kind of, like, if I'm disgruntled with anything, or a person in particular, I carry it in my right foot. When I start limping, I'm like, who am I mad at? You know what I mean? Like, so I have this about me, so I'm very much aware of this. But what really opened my eyes is, even though we have our own individual realities and we're creating our own reality, we're co-creators of a collective reality.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, right.
So a lot of us, you have yours, I have mine, whoever, everybody's got theirs, and sometimes we bump up against each other because our reality, like when you walked in here earlier, I was kind of in a different mindset, and you came in with an agenda, and I was confused by your agenda, and you thought you expressed your agenda, and we bumped up against each other. I was like, what the fuck is your problem? And you're like, what the fuck is your problem? Oh, we have that problem? All right, let's move on, right? But people are doing that all day long. So now, let's think about this. Now you have more and more and more people who have their own individual realities, who are angry, who are bumping up against each other. And those who agree, okay, so they agree. They're still angry. But the extremes of the disagreements are really creating this chaos. And my thought was, if a little tiny bit of, let's see what's going on in the circus we call our country, created this in me, people don't even realize what it's creating in them. And then I noticed this morning, as I'm making breakfast and having a conversation with my husband, who's off today, I was like a little bit of a dick. Like, I feel I was short of tempered. Why? Because I was in pain. So a normal conversation with Rob turned into me being and created a little bit of an argument, right? So if let's trace it back. My indulging toxicity creates discomfort in my body, creates an altered disposition, which I then go to the world with, creating a problem, only exacerbating my altered disposition, which only creates, we are co-creating, even though all of our perspectives are different, we are co-creating a reality that is quite uncomfortable for all of us. Yeah. And the only solution, and I'm not going to get all shocker crazy on you. You are. It's okay. But if we all recognize that, and say, wait a minute, do I want to feel this way? Does this feel good? It no longer matters. I guess what I'm trying to say is it no longer matters who's right or who's wrong. Right. It no longer matters that I think, and I don't really think this, I'm just saying this, that I think it's wrong to storm the Capitol building, or that I think it's wrong to burn down Portland. You know what I mean? Right. It doesn't matter if I think this old guy with the bad hair is crazy, or this old guy with the bad hair is crazy. It doesn't matter. What matters is it better to be right, or is it better to be happy? And at the end of the day, all those perspectives are just perspectives, because there's
Right.
a kernel of
Of
right
truth
in
and
all
wrong
of them.
in all of it.
And
Right.
yeah, exactly.
And here's the beautiful thing. This is what people don't realize, and I'm going to share this because this is the way I have engaged with the happenings of this week. Is I avoid news, I avoid social media for the longest time. Specifically because I tend this garden with love and ferocity. There's no whole wide world. There's the whole world as it unfolds in my 6-inch space between my ears. But here's what people don't know. You have the choice. You have the choice to have your perspective and not allow it to overtake your experience. I have my perspective. Do I have an opinion about what happened and who? And we all do. You'd be lying. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, and I wouldn't believe a single person that said, no, I don't have an opinion. We all have an opinion. But it is just that we, at the end of the day, have a choice, and I would even go so far as to say perhaps a responsibility to maintain our own personal equilibrium, our own personal center. And when we remain centered and we realize that it doesn't happen by accident, that it ultimately is a conscious, rational choice to remain centered and equanimous, then we don't have these ripple effect repercussions throughout our experience banging into one another.
That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing is banging into one another and
And the ripple
exacerbating
effects
the
of
problem.
all that negativity,
Yeah.
all that energy. Because
Yeah.
again, at the end of the day, I still come back to we're energy, their energy. Donald Trump is source. I'm source. We're all angels. We're all the devil. We all got light and dark. It's all part of the whole. It's who are you today? What have you chosen today? Where's your heart and mind today? And how do you express that in your experience so as not to be toxically bumping into all the other universes out there?
I just want to add another piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rob and I, since we've been married, since we've been together, we learn how to fight with each other, and we've been learning. We get really good at it. I mean, good at
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
good at communicating without flipping tables. And even the other night, we were talking about something, and it was a little tense, the subject matter, and we both talked about it later, that we were both in the conversation and we were both removed from the conversation, observing the conversation, going, holy shit, nobody's yelling. Like we both, because we laughed about it later. He goes, yeah, I was like, oh my God, how are we doing? So we're really in that good space. But before we learned how to do this, or again, we're still learning, but before this change in how we relate, I always felt as if every time I tried to, and I know especially women can relate to this. I'm not saying men can't, but especially women, because there's like a template, I guess. You try to tell your significant other how you're feeling, and because of their defensiveness, right? They're more interested in being right than solving the problem. They're more interested in being right than hearing you. Right? We all do it. We get defensive.
I was going to say, that sounds like a very feminine trait
No,
also.
well, okay. So I've never been in a relationship with a woman. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm a woman. I know that I've had that experience where I want to be right.
Yeah, I get, I'm not saying I've never been that way, because that would be a total lie. I practice trying to solve the problem. So I'm much more aware of it because it's like important to me, right? So I've been more so on the receiving end. So it's always been about, and so then it turns into an argument. Now I'm upset and I'm yelling, and now I'm the asshole because of how I behaved in the argument, right? So it always goes off the rails. But this idea of we are so defensive of our belief system, and we're so defensive of protecting our beliefs, our behaviors, our patterns, our paradigms, that it's about being right, it's about being right. And it would be in all of our best interest to decide, what is it that best serves us? What makes me happy? What do I want, right? Reasonably, right? What is it I truly, truly want? Because clearly this going at each other's throats is getting us nowhere.
Yeah.
What is it I want? Because I believe that we have a bell curve, right? We got the fringe on the one side, on the left, and the fringe on the right. And you've got this group of kind of what's been for years the silent majority, right? as things get crazier and crazier, the 2% and the 2% might have graduated to 20%, but you still have 60% in the middle that has leanings, right? Lean a little bit of this way, lean a little bit of this way, but this is really the rational middle ground. And if the rational middle ground could just stop and breathe and say, this is not necessarily about throwing opinions and being right. This is about, we are rational people that all have families, that all have love in our hearts, that all have jobs that we want to go to, that all have, you know what I mean? We all have homes, for the most part, you understand what I'm saying? And we all want to protect all of that. How can we do that?
Yes.
Stop focusing on these dopes, because it reminds me, and I'll get off my soapbox in a second, it reminds me of being in the classroom. You know, one of my biggest frustrations in education is you have 20 kids in the class, right? You got the 2 or 3 kids that no matter what you throw at them, they're going to ace it, and they're going to be bored, and they're going to do their thing. And then you've got the 2 or 3 kids, usually it's one, but he could drag down, I say he, but I have like all these faces in my head, right? But could drag down 1 or 2 others that might be able to survive if this person didn't exist. And then you got this group in the middle. And I always have like 3 or 4 girls that no matter how hard they try, and they take their little notes and they listen and they raise their hands, they can't break the C or they can't break the B barrier, right? But the teacher's attention is all towards these kids because they're tearing stuff up and they're going, we're going to make them learn, and the administration gets involved and we're going to help these kids learn, and the parents and we're putting all our energy towards the fringe that you can't argue with a drunk. Right. And these kids are not getting the education they deserve, and these kids are off in the corner picking their noses because nobody, well, now they're playing on their cell phones. When it was me, I was picking my nose, I'm just saying. But nobody's tending to these guys, right? Yeah. And I feel like the media has built this empire on focusing on the 3 kids that are causing the problem, and the 60%, the middle ground, these poor kids that are taking all the notes are getting boned. Boned. All we can do here in the middle, the rational leaners, right? All we could do is also focus on these 3 kids, because that's where the teacher's attention is.
Well, we've also turned like mayhem into entertainment. It's kind of the evolution of social media.
Sounds a lot like the Coliseum, if you will.
24-hour news cycles. Like all of this has really fomented this idea of like masochism as entertainment, right? And sadism as entertainment. So yeah, we could all go watch, Everybody Loves Raymond, but we want to watch the mayhem unfold. There's an entire media machine on every single leaning on every side that feeds the beast. That's the beast. Right. It used to be 1 show a day. Now it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. God, I'm not even going to go towards.
So just to bring it home, the thing that I learned about these kids is their energy sucks, and no matter what you do, you just continue to enable them to not do what you want them to do. It's sucking all your energy. Okay. So what I learned when I became a seasoned educator, because my early years I'm gonna fix this kid, right? And what I learned when I became a seasoned educator is, no, there's nothing I can do. When this kid's ready, he'll come find me. Right? Focus on this group, and when you focus on this group blossoms, and then these few here, then it merges, and now you've got 2/3, right? I mean, the numbers are up, but you understand what I'm saying. Instead of 3 parts, you have 1 big part and 1 insignificant part. And I just think that there's so much attention going towards
the rabble rouser.
Thank you.
Energy. And while you were talking, I'm reminded just so perfectly, reality is relative. If we really are indeed all creating our own reality, then there is no reality. There's at least not something worth going to blows over at this point. It's all relative. How you feel about what's happening is just that. It's how you feel, as opposed to how everybody else needs to feel, should feel. Why aren't you angry? Why aren't you wearing a mask? Why aren't you not wearing a mask? It's none of your business. It's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Take care of your own
Yeah.
little garden there. You know,
Yeah.
yes, we're a communal, familial, social community as humans. You know, we are, yes. But this whole idea of like, well, my country and my democracy, America is a line drawn in the dirt. Countries are lines drawn in the sand, and those lines have changed dramatically at certain points in history and throughout time. So let's come back to center. Let's come back to rationale. Let's come back to mutual respect. Let's come back to let me hear all points. And
in my experience over the years, I've had times in my life where I've been a little bit more broken than other times, a little bit more vulnerable than other times. There are times of the day that I'm a little bit more vulnerable than other times.
Yeah.
There are times of the month that are a little bit more vulnerable than other times. And what I've learned about these vulnerabilities is when I am without food, or if my sugar drops, or if I'm tired, or if I'm cold, or if I'm menstrual, or if I'm in pain, that is what triggers my change in perspective and my behavior even. So what I see, everything from people who, this is not judgment, but this is my understanding. When I see people going off on social media, that's the least of the extremes, to the further extreme, when they protest on the side of the road, to the even further extreme, to storming the Capitol, right? I see people who are in vulnerable positions, or people who are in pain, or people who feel disempowered,
right.
people feel disempowered, right? So this is what I see. And it's easy to say, I feel disempowered because the government is doing blah, blah, blah. But I'll be completely honest with you. I think keep going back. Keep going further.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the government isn't giant clown shoes that's boning us from day one. I'm not disagreeing with that. But you could still be well, happy, and whole without lashing out. Because I'm sitting here, and the guy next to me, who was on at the Capitol building, we are getting boned in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow I don't feel that need. So why is my reality different?
Because we create our own universe.
Because
this is the whole wide world.
And that's really bringing it home. That's really the point that we're trying to make. Is not coming from a place of irresponsibility, like everybody should be hanging out, like I said, painting pretty pictures.
Absolutely.
But we, at the end of the day, all we really want is peace. And when you're fighting against something or someone that you believe is taking your peace, then truly you've never had it.
Yeah. We are peace. The opposite of peace is judgment. Judgment comes in and destroys peace always. It's without fail. Peace is not out there. Nobody has a right to take your peace because you are peace. Judgment blocks, obstructs, keeps you from experiencing yourself that way. So
and this conversation is probably going to be lost, but it's just so important to be out there. And I feel a little exhausted by it. Nobody's fucking listening.
Well, this is the Love Seat. Thank you for watching. Steffi's back in Florida. Dana Sardano at the Ubuntu Fish Gallery in Stewart. Bring your cell phone by if you're in the area. And I, Stephi Starr, Altered States Facilitator, still to this day, doing what I do. We see you, we love you, and we'll have another conversation again soon, I'm sure.